Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the another opening. This is the Italian game Knight Attack. So it starts after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 and bishop b4. c4. So and after black plays knight f6. So this is called the two knights defense. There's also another way where you can reach this position. So in the Petrov's defense, so after this, you play bishop c4, the Yurosov gambit, and if they got with the knight, then you reach this position again. So now you play knight g5, which is the knight attack. So you're going after this pawn, which forks the knight and the queen. So here there are many options. There are two options that black can play. So one of them is d5. So after takes, then you take with the knight, and there is actually an idea for white here. So instead of taking the knight or doing something else, knight takes f7 also is a good move. So if king takes, then queen f3 check, so attacking this knight and the king at the same time. So the king can go back to e8 or any other move is fine, but king e6 defends this knight. So let's just say knight c3, and then if you want to keep this knight, then knight e7 keeps this knight, but the problem with that is d4, and then obviously you have to protect this knight. So like c6, and now you take this pawn, and the king can go back now, because now the king can hide back and this knight is protected. So that's the best idea. Now the best move is bishop g5, pinning this knight so that this knight can be taken, but the knight can just move away. So you can play knight x c3, and then but the problem with after takes, now this is a pin. So instead of this, after takes, play e6 check. So king e8 is checkmate in one move, and king c7 is the best move, but obviously white is winning and he'll have a better game because he has obviously more pieces. He has more pieces to attack with, and also this knight can always be taken, and black only has a pawn up. So instead of all this, if they don't want to take and play knight a5, this is a Polario defense. So this actually favors black and white at the same time, so this is fine. So you can either retreat the bishop, which is actually a very bad idea, because after h6 the knight has to go back, and then you take the knight, the rook pawn takes, wait, let me just take that. Okay, and now you take, so e4 gets played, and then if pins, then just pin it back. Or instead of that, a better developing move is bishop e7. So the pin is broken and the knight is still attacked. So after some moves, it's actually better for black. So instead of that, you can also check. So after check, you play this, and after takes. Obviously the bishop has to move back again, and if the bishop wants to stay, then this is fine. But the problem with this is that again h6 and wait a second. again h6 comes back and all that stuff happens. So instead of that, you can also move here, but again h6 and again everything happens. So instead of that, knight h3 is the best move. But the problem with knight h3 is that after takes and takes, now white can't castle this side because this file is open. So knight h3 is the best move. And then instead of taking, you should play like developing moves like bishop d6 or something like that. So with bishop d6 you're trying to castle, so that's one move. Or instead of the normal variation, you can do the Traxler counterattack. So this is a very tricky opening. So it's bishop c5, and if takes, now this move is check. And so if you ever encounter this, I recommend that you always play king f1 instead of taking this bishop, because if you take, this is what happens. So knight x e4 check. So here there are only some moves that win. So king e3 is a good move. King f3 loses, king e2 loses, king e1 loses, and king f1 loses. So the best move is king g1. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually the best move. So first let's start with, this. So let's just say the opponent plays king e3. Now what should you play? You should play queen h4. So you're trying for this, and they can't obviously take this knight. So the best move is g3. So what you're trying to do is kicking this queen out and also preventing this move. Another move you can play is queen f3, which also protects it. But here knight f6 just protects. If you just bring the knight back, now this is under attack, and obviously the king is in a very bad position. So again, if we go back, after this always play g3, but I recommend just playing king g1 instead. So let's just say if your opponent played king e2. So now what should you do? You should play knight d4 check. And then there are many options. So the best move here is king d3. And then you should play knight f2 check. So this is a fork, and obviously this is winning for black. So instead of that, if the king moves to e3, then you should play queen h4 again with this threat. So if g3, then just takes, and then you're still threatening this, and also you're threatening the rook. So instead of that, the best move here is rook f1, protecting that. But then you play d5, sacrificing the pawn for this. So the queen is trapped, it has nowhere to go. So now here the best move is bishop x d5, and then sacrificing your queen. So bishop x e4, and then takes. So that's the best move for white, but that's also losing because black has a queen extra. So what if they play king e1? Then just check, and then if g3, then just take it. So here if they play king f1, then check, and obviously the queen can't come here. So if the queen, that's the only move that survives. So and then the knight takes, and obviously black is winning. So if you play something like this, then it's checkmate. And even, wait, let me just go back. So again here this is also checkmate. So that's for king e2. What if they play king f3? Then you play rook f8, not check, because that just gives away the knight. So play rook f8, and if they take the knight, then d5, and obviously the bishop has to take. Or the king can move back, but if the king moves back, then you take the bishop and it's double check. So after king takes, so queen d4, check, and anywhere the king moves, it's checkmate. So again, back here. After check, if the bishop takes, then play bishop f5 check, sacrificing the bishop. If the king takes, then you play queen x d5. So again this is pinned, and this knight is always going to be lost. And black has way more material. Wait, yeah, so this is better for black because he's going to take this knight and there's no way to guard that knight. So that's one variation, and instead of taking the knight, the king, so after rook f8, the king can just move out of the pin instead, but that also comes with this again, and then you're trying to get this again. So again, if we go back, what if they play king e1? So then just again, if they play g3, then you take, and obviously this is a threat and this is a threat. So there are many threats for black here. And what if they play king f1? Then, as I told, this is actually fine, but again the queen can get in the way, and this is still better for white. So instead of queen check, play queen h4, because this queen can't get attacked. I mean, if the queen comes here, then the knight just attacks, and this is also hanging. So that's for king f1. So what should you do if, wait a second, okay, so what should you do if they play king g1? So there's not many options. You should try for queen h4, and then after g3, which is the best move. So you should play knight x g3, and then after, if they take, so let's just say h x g3, and now everything is better for black. Queen x g3 check, the king has only one move, and then rook f8 again, so you're pinning the knight to the king again. So instead of g3, what if they play queen f3? So queen f3 is better for black because rook f8 again pins the pawn to the king, pins the knight to the queen. And if they take the knight, then queen x e4, so they won't obviously take this knight because it's protected. So that's for king g1. So in king g1, what if they play something like queen f6? So wait, queen f6, yeah, so queen f6 again is met with the queen, and obviously this knight is threatened. So after takes and takes, obviously white is going to win a piece, the rook or the knight. So let's just say this happens and then you take. So this is very good for white. So that's the Traxler counterattack. So this is a very nice defense, and there's also many attacks. So most beginners play h6, like preventing the knight from coming here. They play h6, but this is the anti-fried liver defense. It isn't that such of a good move because all it does is just prevent that, but it isn't that good because you're not developing a piece, and white has way better development. So again, wait a second. So this is the Italian game Rozio Gambit, in which if they take, the knight is obviously blocking this. The knight is blocking this play, so you can just play d4, attacking the bishop, and you're also threatening this. So bishop b5 is, wait a second, so bishop b5 is also a move here. So bishop b5 pinning the knight to the king, and after takes, if they take that, then it's obviously kind of winning, because now again the bishop has to go back and white is better. So that's the Rozio Gambit. And if they play bishop b5, just first guard the knight and also attack the pawn at the same time twice. So now if they take, this is fine for black, and this is actually better for black because black has a solid center, and also you can prevent white from castling if he doesn't. So that's the Rozio Gambit. And instead of that, you can also play d5. So this is also another type of gambit, but it doesn't have a name. So instead of that, if you want to prevent this, then you can just play d6. So this is still prevented because if the knight goes, then the queen just takes. So d3 is also a good move. So if they normally develop, then you pin the knight, and you're trying for, if white wants to castle on the king side, then you're trying with knight d4. So this is pinned and you want to attack that. They can obviously go back, but you take the bishop and it's still pinned. So that's the Italian game Knight Attack. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.